In this video, you're gonna learn 3 of the most popular color grading techniques for photos, and in the end, as a bonus, we're gonna combine all 3 to create your very own custom color grade. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. We're gonna do all of this within Lightroom Mobile, so you don't really need a PC at all. So let's begin with the first look, which is the teal and orange look. So first, launch up Lightroom Mobile and import your picture in there. First thing we're gonna do is jump into the light module. This is where you control your exposure, your contrast, all of that stuff. So jump into the light module. For this picture, I feel like it's slightly overexposed, so we're gonna reduce the exposure just a little bit to minus 0.04. Bring the contrast up to 23 maybe, and then the highlights down a little bit to like minus 7. Shadows up slightly to 12. Whites up slightly as well, and then our black slightly down because I want to create a little bit of a fade like we usually do. For the coloring, this is where everything happens. Click on the color tab and then click on color mix. That's the top one. So once you're here for the teal and orange look, you're going to take your greens and move the hue all the way to the left. Same for the yellows. Click on yellow, hues all the way to the left. Don't worry, it's not fully orange yet, but we're going to fix that in a second. So for your blues, this is where you're going to shift the hue from blue to teal. So we're gonna move the hue to the left there. There's not a lot of blue here, but you can kind of see, if I bring up the saturation, you'll see what we're affecting here. And right there at minus 57-ish is where you get the teal look. Now, obviously, you don't have a lot of teal in this picture, so you would leave it as it is. And then for the aqua color, also, you're gonna move it slightly to the left to like minus 18, maybe. The rest of the colors don't really matter here. Honestly, you would want to desaturate or saturate based on what you want. So for example, if I'm looking at the lips here and I saturate this too much, it's gonna look really odd. So try to keep it on a baseline right there. So this on its own is not quite teal and orange yet. It's close, but the background is not completely orange. And on mobile, unfortunately, there's no way to actually get to orange with just one layer of edit. So what we're gonna do is click on the export to camera roll button and then re-import this picture again and edit it as a new image. So once we import it again, this is the same file. What we're gonna do is go back into our color mix and change our yellows to the orange. So you can see right away we get the orange look, which wasn't possible with just one layer of editing. So there we go. That's the actual orange. So once you've done this, we're going to continue our edit to finish up here into the effects panel. Here you can increase your texture just ever so slightly. Zoom in a little bit to see this. Increase texture, increase clarity a little bit if you want to create that sort of grungy look. And then you can dehaze slightly and add a slight vignette as well. This is obviously dependent on your scene. Go back to our color tab. I feel like we can add a little bit more contrast, increase the highlights slightly, bring down the shadows. Then we go for our curves, create 3 points just like that. And then the bottom point, we're going to bring up slightly just there. All right, so a little bit more contrast. So that's the before and after, and that's going to be your most popular look of teal and orange. The second look I'm going to be showing you is the blackout. It's also called the urban look or black and orange. And that's pretty much it. It's black and orange. So again, once your picture is within Lightroom, we're going to go through the light module first. Here, I'm going to decrease the contrast a little bit. You're going to bring up the highlights slightly. You're going to bring up shadows slightly, whites maybe a little bit up, and blacks a little bit up. Basically, the goal here is to remove a little bit of that contrast, the darkness first. We're going to add that back in later anytime. Then what we're going to do is move on to the color module. So again, color mix up top, click on that. And here's the trick for this. The first 2 colors, which is the reds and the oranges, we're not going to touch that at all. Every other color after that, starting from yellow, desaturate it. So desaturate yellow, green, aqua, blue, and these magenta tones, all of them all the way to 0. And you can already see the main colors that remain are the skin tones and the orange reddish tones. So that's what we want to go for. So once you're done with this, go back to your color module. Here you can add back all that contrast that you were lacking. Then we're going to go back to our curves, create the 3 dots as per usual, and then the bottom dot we're going to bring up slightly to get that fade. Now, once you have that, you can obviously go back and forth again. I feel like this can use a little bit more contrast. Next step is going to be go into your colors and click on color grade. Once you're in color grade, go to your highlights and bring up the hue for this to a warmer tone, which is somewhere around 50 degrees right there. Desaturate, saturate based on how you think it should look based on your image. For the sake of this one, I'm going to make it up slightly to 20 saturation. So once you have that, check the before and after really quick, desaturate a little bit and add vibrance. Add a little bit of clarity, a little bit of dehaze and vignette, midpoint, feather. Then we come back, add a little bit of grain. Let's zoom in to see how we're looking so far. We're looking good. We're looking fine. There we go. All right, so that's before and that's after. That's how you do the blackout or urban look. All right, so the last effect we're going for is the fade out effect or the vintage look. The way to do this is pretty simple. It's all within the curves module. So what we're gonna do is get into our picture. You're gonna adjust your contrast levels. Here you want more dark blacks if you can get them. So adjust the contrast levels, bring down the highlights a little bit, bring up the shadows a little bit, whites up, blacks down. So the more blacks you have, the better this is going to work. Then we're going to go into colors and decrease the temperature a little bit because this image was a bit too warm. That's a good tone right there. Then what we're going to do is come into our textures, add a little bit of texture, add a little bit of clarity, add a vignette. Go back to your colors. I want to go for a softer, warmer tone for the hipster look. The way to do that is move your greens all the way to the left, as well as your yellows all the way to the left. So it's kind of like the teal and orange look. So you see you get these little highlights change color to a bluish tone. That's exactly what we want. Looking at our glasses here, you can see that there's a blue there. We're going to move that to the left as well to get this sort of glow. All right, so this is looking fine right now, but the main ingredient that makes this vintage is by going into curves, creating your 3 dots and bringing this up heavily, right? So this is where the magic happens, so if you will. This gives you that sort of film look. Lastly, to make it look vintage, truly vintage, scroll to your effects and add some grain. Let me zoom this in. Let's see how much grain we really need to add. I think right about there looks legit. Started with this and you end up with this. So that's how you do the fade out vintage look. You add a little bit of grain, a little bit of that fade, and you're pretty much good to go. And lastly, like I said, as a bonus, you can take different techniques from each of these effects, combine them together to make your own color grade. That's pretty much what I do for almost all my pictures. I take different techniques from each of them to create my own look. And I encourage every one of you to do that so you can create your own custom style that doesn't look like everyone else's pictures. So that's it, guys. I hope this was useful to you. If it was, make sure to like the video so that more people get to see it, and I'll see you again in the next video. Until then, bye bye.